Another question is if, as I said in my previous podcast, that Trump is destroyed and that he's going to lose with a massive landslide, and that he really has lost the American people on his values, if not all of his policies. How many Republicans will he take down with him? What is happening to the Republican Party? The Republican Party pretty much went along with him on everything, not only the impeachment, but everything, just about everything. And if he has completely lost the confidence of the American people, how many of those Republicans in Senate and the House will have also lost the confidence of their voters? So it could be a landslide for Democrats all around, I imagine. Now, there have been a bunch of retirements already prior to all of these multiple crises. The lone Republican black senator left, along with one of the few Republican women and several others. Before all of this happened, there's, a number of retirements. And some of them were, in part because of Trump's racism and other elements of the Trump presidency that were different from prior presidents, at least in terms of extent, if not type. So now, what is going to happen to the Republican Party? I could quite easily imagine that this destroys the Republican Party. I can also easily imagine that it doesn't. We'll have to wait and see. But I could quite easily believe that not only will the Democrats take both houses, but that the Republican Party will begin to really fall apart and no longer be a viable party. And I say that because, I saw a recent video on YouTube in which someone was discussing the Republican Party being no longer a policy party, like a post-policy party, where they basically are willing to accept bills from, the sort of corporate interest groups and just put them into law without barely looking at them. In fact, they also didn't bother to change their manifesto from 2016 to 2020 at all, so that it speaks about the current administration being terrible, even though they're, it's supposed to be the GOP and the Trump administration platform. So, I think they've kind of, they're just acting out the moves. I mean, they'll just say whatever, is the party line. They'll refuse to answer if a question is uncomfortable. And they're really just, they're not trying anymore. And if the voters turn so much against Trump that there is a landslide against him, I think they're going to probably consider the Republican Party to be, because Trump made it his party. He made them go along with everything that he did. He made it so that if you spoke out against him even once, you would get slammed on Twitter, you would lose your job if you had a choice about it, or he would just smear you left and right if you're a senator or a congressperson. And I think they were so afraid of that in the Republican Party that they were complicit in everything. And the voters know that, I think. They may not know it as well as some of us do who are paying closer attention, but they know it. Because they were doing it on purpose. They were tying themselves to Trump because he had popularity. And even as his popularity declined, they didn't jump ship either. So they're going to go down with him. And what will happen if they do? Is America capable in the 2020s of creating a new political party? What would the dividing line be? I think senators and congresspeople make so much money doing things the way that they do it, that they don't like progressives. They don't like changing ideas, but the voters do. And if we were to pass a law that made insider trading that is currently legal against the law, if we could push that through, then there would be a lot less reason for these congresspeople to just go along with the sort of corporate interest groups and all the pork, There was a massive, massive amount of ugly, ugly pork in the coronavirus stimulus bill, for example. And so instead of actually doing something that would help the economy, they chose to just give money to their friends and allow the economy to crash. And I think the American people can see that pretty clearly. So if we took advantage of this moment, in addition to dealing with the criminal justice reform, police reform, and all of those which are front and center right now, and they should be. But if we could go a step further and actually make it much harder for Senate and Congress to just funnel the money, the taxpayer money, into their own pockets and their friends' pockets and their stock portfolio. If we made that much, much harder, then not only the Republicans, but the Democrats would have to start actually serving the people. And if we did that, then there's no reason why there couldn't be a more progressive party, and then a party that's made up of sort of old school Democrats and Republicans who are still finding ways to rip the people off and serve their corporate interests as much as they can. And the progressive party, could take the other side and say, let's actually do things for the people. Now, of course, doing things for the people sounds very nice, but a lot of people are concerned about that. People who are more libertarian-minded would say the government should be doing less, not just changing roads and doing more, but doing it for the people. So there could be a libertarian party as well. It would be interesting if there were more than two parties for a while, and we could actually struggle it out with the actual differences in ideas. There's sort of the new conservative party would be the sort of corporate, semi-Democrat, Republican, corporate, middle of the road thing. And then we could have progressives on one side and libertarians on the other. And that would be fascinating to see that sort of struggle out and see where the ideology of the American people actually takes them and who could actually win election in such a scenario. Of course, a lot of people who aren't super ideological or don't pay really close attention would end up just hearing three different sound bites, and we could end up getting probably just the same old again because the other two sound too weird, or they start using sound bites from, the corporate people start using the sound bites of whichever is winning, progressive or libertarian, because they know how to play the game. They would probably end up winning. So, it could be disappointing, but it would be very interesting to see. And to actually have a battle of ideas for real would be such a breath of fresh air.